Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to work on the Miata again. A few weeks back, I blew out a cam seal on the way to work. Process of replacing that, put everything back together, and the car wouldn't start. It threw a code for the mass airflow sensor. I jiggled the wires around, then it would start. So I'm pretty sure I've already figured out where the brake is at, but I got a new pigtail. And I'm going to show you how I replace those. So let's get after it. Alright, so to start with, the pigtail I got. Most pigtails you're going to get for your cars are going to be all the same wire. They do that for a few reasons, because this goes to several different cars, and if they put, let's say a purple, a green, and a white, and then those match the colors on your car, but they're not in the right spot, well, then this ain't gonna work. So I recommend taking pictures of the factory plug and what color went where. Well, regardless, when you cut it off, you'll still be able to see it on the plug, the other plug. But keep track of what goes where. Don't throw it away, whatever. They usually sell them with these little crimp fittings. They work good. Most people are going to tell you to use these. I agree, disagree. I've had problems with these. A lot of people say you have problems soldering because at the solder joints they'll crack and break. Yeah. Any splicing of wire you're going to have problems with if not done correctly. My opinion, I don't like the crimp fittings. I've had corrosion problems. I've had them pull out, even though I have a thing to crimp them. It's no different. These are hard. These bend. These are hard. You still have the same problem. I don't know where that one went. Doesn't matter. But, again, I'm going to show you how I do it. Unfortunately, we got to do it on the car because I'm not taking the whole wiring harness out. But it'll be all right. So, this is where mine plugs into. Let's see if we can get you in there to see that. It does not want to focus very well, but right there on that white wire, it's cracked. I believe that's where my brake is. It could be in here. 9 times out of 10, when a wire breaks, it's somewhere that it bends or goes into the harness. It's from, doing that or shaking over years. It's usually somewhere where it bends. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up, get it back into this harness. I want to get as much of this line out as I can so I can work on it. Be careful not to cut wires when you're doing this. You gotta be kind of delicate. Electrical tape was always nasty. I would like to find some cloth. Mint. Oh, now the new plug. That's what I forgot to explain beforehand. But you want to use pretty much all of this plug, or let's say something's plugged in and it's kind of tight and pulling. So instead, if the plug is tight and it needs more line, then move it down. Don't take as much off. This one I want to take as much as possible. Wherever you splice the lines, you want it to be inside of like a harness, inside of a straight zone, not on a bend. So you don't want to cut it here and splice it, and then this thing stay like that all the time. That is when you get solder breaking. Those other connectors will break because it's bent, it's under tension, it's being pulled. Get it back to a straight area inside the loom. That way you don't have those issues. So I'm going to go probably just in the middle of this. Cut her off. I have these fancy things, which are actually very cheap. I'd recommend them. They help strip wires. But you don't need those. I've done it all with these or a pocket knife before. Or, you can just take straight. You know what I mean? My only other recommendation is unplug the battery. Either unplug the battery or only cut one wire at a time. So I'm not disconnecting the battery. I'm just going to cut one at a time. I recommend disconnecting the battery. I'm just not doing that. So the reason I recommend these, put them in there, strips of wire for you. Way more better. Done. Helps you out. I also don't pull this off already. Alright. Now I got to twist all of them. When I twist wires, I twist them all the same direction. You run into issues, but whatever. I'm not going to explain that. Just twist them all the same way. Next thing, you need to make sure you get some heat shrink. Don't get regular heat shrink. This is like marine grade. It's adhesive lined, flame retardant. It's the good stuff. When you heat it, this glue comes out and actually seals it from corrosion getting back in. That's what you need. You also need to remember to put that on before you solder or connect to that, because you can't do it afterwards. Well, I guess you could deep pin this. Just remember to put it on there. So I'm going to do it now. Alright. Got them on there. Slide them all the way to the bracket or to the plug. That's not a problem. Now, I need the old plug so I can tell where these go. So, matching them up. The far right is the white and red. White and red to the far right. And that's basically how I twist them. Just kind of to hold them together. Try to make sure you don't have no stabbies. This one's got a stabby sticking out. They'll poke through the heat shrink over time, or sometimes immediately. Next thing you got to get out is your grandma's old soldering iron. This is probably the best one I've had. I've bought other ones, and they don't get near as hot as this. You know, I've obviously had this for a long time. That's old school plug. Always remember, clean your tip off a little bit. It's not the right way. It's okay though. And then set that somewhere you don't burn yourself, you know, or anything else. Doesn't matter. So I almost did it on the concrete under the car. Now, you need flux, solder, lead-free solder paste, flux, whatever, and some solder. I like this little stuff from the auto parts store. It melts faster because it's thin. It's wound up in a case. You can kind of, you know. But start off with paste. We need there. Let's use this. You stick your finger and whatnot in there you want to, but a big old glob. Big glob. Doesn't really matter how much you use of that. You want to use enough so that the solder sticks. But yeah, I don't think you can really use too much. I guess you could. And then the last little piece of information. When you go to solder these, the major issue is people put too much solder in here and then it runs back in the lines. You know, you just need enough solder that's not going to come apart. You don't need a big old glob and solder up. It just needs to be stuck. So we can't get this stuff soldered up. When you go to solder, you don't need to be touching solder to the gun. You need to heat up your object. So I usually put the solder gun under it. See how it's heating that up. And then I wait for it to melt onto the wire. Because you don't want just the solder to lay on the item. There we go. Ish. Come on. There we go. Alright, and that's enough. Then you move on to the next. Yep. That's all you need. You don't need no stupid amount. See what I mean? It didn't run up in the wires. It's just sticking the wire together. It's good enough. Then you can wait for that to cool down, or I'll lick my fingers. You know, they cool down pretty fast. And we'll slip our heat shrink over them. Alright. I gotta move you guys away because I don't want to use a torch that close to my camera. You can use a lighter. If you're not used to using one of these on that stuff, don't, because you'll burn the wires up. You're probably better off using a lighter. Or like a heat gun if you have a heat gun. You're gonna use a torch. And watch what else you're torching. Alright. That's done. Oh, good. That one you can kind of see the glue on. It's kind of hard to see the glue, but trust me, they're glued on there. They're all good. Now we just need to put it back in the loom, get it where it's supposed to go, plug it in, see if the car starts. I have owned this car for a while now, and that is not the first plug I've switched out. That plug is also new. That plug is also new. And another one I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe one of those. But yeah, this one's for sure new. So my throttle positioning sensor is new, cam sensor is new, and now my mass overflow sensor is a new plug. It's not the first time I've done it. My Mustang, same, over corrosion, everything else. It's got 500,000 freaking new plugs. So, you can probably see if it starts now, right? I'm gonna bet it does. Sweet. And yes, I have either a starter or a battery problem. The battery tests fine. The starter's new. That doesn't mean anything. But it randomly does not want to turn over. It just clicks. I'm betting starter. But anyways. Hopefully this helps somebody, It's pretty easy to wire stuff. There's going to be a lot of people that have other opinions. You should use those crimp-ons, whatever. If you're not comfortable soldering, probably use the clip-on or crimp-on ones, but you need a good crimp tool. Soldering's not hard. It's pretty easy. I just showed you how to do it. It's that simple. It's my preferred way. That's never going to come apart. It's never going to corrode. The proper heat shrink on there with the glue, it's not going to corrode. You're never going to have a problem with it. Like I said, the only time you're going to have a problem with that is if you put that wire on a bend. So if the solder's in between a bend, that's going to break. But so are the crimp-ons. So get it back into the loom, get it back as far as you can. Do it. It's fixed. So again, I'm just rambling. Hopefully this helps somebody. If it did, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll catch you in the next one.